you support repealing Obamacare entirely, correct?
Correct.
Okay, because Mary Beth Buchanan actually is. She said she did sign that pledge also. What do you think? I know there's a provision in there. The provision where 26-year-olds are allowed to be on their parents' health insurance for whatever period of till I think they're 26. I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
Repeal the whole thing.
Okay,
when I said repeal the whole thing, repeal the whole thing and start over.
Okay, good stuff there. So yeah, you don't think there's any positive bits about it at all?
No, because it's all intertwined with each other. It's all intertwined with the individual mandate. It's all got to get scrapped, and you have to start over.
Okay, good, gotcha there. Have you been involved at all with the Tea Party or the 9/12 groups, like you organized?
I spoke at a Tea Party back in September before I declared my candidacy.
Okay,
so I've gone to several local Tea Parties and was invited to speak at one back in September.
Okay, good stuff. Are those folks at all working with your campaign right now?
I've got folks who have been involved with the Tea Party and folks who have been involved with 9/12 who have been volunteering for my campaign. Yes.
Good stuff there. How's your you guys' your work getting out the vote? I mean, you think you're gonna have pretty good turnout tomorrow? What do you think of the elections?
Yeah, no, I'm feeling good right now. We have got a lot of boots on the ground. We're getting our polls covered. We're finishing up getting packets together, so we're feeling good.
Oh, good stuff there. Another thing I was wondering was that Washington has a reputation for be really corrupting people pretty well and altering their whole way of thinking away from private sector solutions. I mean, what idea would you have for how would you plan on resisting that temptation if you got to Washington?
Well, I think number one, you have to get together before the election, and you have to prepare for that. You have to prepare with your fellow challengers across the district, the freshman class that will be coming in 2011, and you have to somehow develop some kind of a system of accountability with each other. So you get that group of 50 or 60 challengers who are going to be successful in taking back these seats from the Democrats and form the new conservative majority. And we just have to pledge to each other that when we get there, we're the ones who are going to be directing the show. We are the ones who are going to be advocating for reform how Congress does business, because we're all too well aware of what happened after the contract with America back in '94 and how things went off the rails. Mm-hmm. And pretty soon the spending kicked in. So we have to, more so I think in the early 2000s, but we have to be very careful with what goes on in Washington. We have to understand the whole idea, the way the system works, and committee chairmanships and what they do to try to peel you off, and we just have to form some kind of commitment for reform that's going to carry us through.
Okay, yeah, that's definitely. I was thinking, along the same way, and I feel like the bloggers and the people who aren't in office have to definitely keep up the pressure on the Republicans that we do get elected. I mean, and I don't know if you're thinking. I think there seems to be a thought on the right blogosphere that we definitely are the Republicans are going to take back the House this year. I mean, people are pretty confident of that at this point.
And the battle in 2011 will be almost exclusively on the budget, and that's where the challenges will have to hang together, because we have to set the ship. We have to set the ship of state to right, and that's going to take real leadership on the part of the new majority, because the president will veto the budget. I think that the new majority would put out. So we have to be prepared for that.
Yeah. Have you thought? I know another thing is with the federal. A lot of people have said in the past year that the federal government or the Congress and Obama with the healthcare thing above all. I think have really gotten around the limitations placed on them by the Constitution. As a practicing attorney, have you thought of anything specific changes you make to the Constitution or other enforcement, other ways you'd put in an enforcement mechanism to make sure that to basically get the president and the Congress back into compliance with the limits placed on them by the Constitution?
Well, I think you have to. You start by repealing Obamacare because the individual mandate is totally unconstitutional, and then you start to look at you have a unique opportunity here. When the federal government is borrowing 43 cents from every dollar it's spending, you get the opportunity now to look at every single program and say, A, is this within the realm of the Constitution? Because we can't afford
Let's real quick. What are your positions on? There's been a few examples tonight where her interview and yours are contrasted. What do you think are the biggest distinctions between yourself and Mary Beth in this primary election?
I'm for term limits. She's not. I represent the private sector. She represents the government sector. I've had experience working with the job creators. I have a philosophical mindset that would never permit me to write a $1,000 check to our inspector, which I think says something. I'm a pro-life conservative. I don't think pro-life conservatives would write $1,000 checks to our inspector.
That's it. And what's your how do you plan on beating Jason Altmaier? Obviously, he's somewhat the superficial observer would think that he's he's wasn't one of the 219 who voted for Obamacare, so that he's been able to pass himself off as a moderate.
The issues in September, October are going to be the issues I started talking about last September when I got into this race: the debt, lack of jobs, spending out of control. Jason Altmaier is vulnerable on those points. He's voted for two consecutive $1.5 trillion deficits. He voted for an $800 billion stimulus package that he admits he did not read. Unemployment has gone from 4.7% when Speaker Pelosi took the gavel in January 2007 to 9.9% today. The Democratic Congress has not done one thing to help the job creators. Jason Altmaier has not done one thing to help the private sector job creators. Adding new federal jobs is not job creation. We need robust policies where the government gets out of the way, keeps taxes low, stops spending our business additional costs like health care and cap and trade, and let the economy grow. We got to keep taxes low. Jason already voted for a tax increase. He voted for the repeal of, or the reinstitution, I should say, of the death tax that lapsed this year. It's currently at zero. It's going to come back in January of 2011, but Jason's trying to bill back in December that would have brought it back in January of this year. So we're going to be fighting on debt, spending, taxes. I will repeal health care. He will not. I will not vote for Nancy Pelosi as Speaker. I will be the 218th vote, actually, to remove Nancy Pelosi as the Speaker. These are the issues we're going to run on, and this is where Jason's very vulnerable, because he does not lead on these issues. On health care, he did not lead. He was a passive observer, and at the last minute, he voted against it. He sat there with his finger in the wind, not taking the leadership position, and getting national attention, dragging our district to a soap opera for 2 weeks. I will not do that to the people. I will stake out my position and argue for it, and I will lead on these issues.
I got you. Supposing here's another thing, just a preliminary thing. If you, what in particular? Do you have any particular programs you'd like to target, or areas that the federal government's involved in currently that you really would like, you personally would really like to see the federal government get not involved with anymore?